Capitol Hoops today at Dr. Henry A. Wise Jr. Senior High School in Upper Marlboro, Maryland, with head coach Rob Garner, continuing our series Beyond the X's and O's. Coach, we appreciate the time. Looking forward to getting to know you a little better and getting a little bit, more about your basketball background.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mark, for having me. I really appreciate it.
Let's start off. Give us a little bit of background on yourself. I know we've been doing this series for a couple of months now, and a lot of the coaches who I've talked to have told me that you were quite the player back in the day. When I asked the question, who would the first pick in your pickup game of all coaches right now be, your name has come up more than any other. So I'm curious to pick your brain a little bit and get a little more, on the background of Rob Garner, the ball player. So talk to me about growing up and how basketball was such an integral part of your life.
Sure. Obviously, I'm homegrown, right here from the DMV. I played high school basketball at Potomac High School under the legendary coach Taft Hickman. Went from Potomac High School to the University of Texas, where I played under Tom Penders at the time. Wound up transferring and finishing my playing career at the University of Delaware under Mike Bray, who's now the head coach at Notre Dame University.
And what kind of player were you? What kind of accolades did you have in high school? What all-met, all-star games? Tell us, why is everyone saying that you are the guy when I ask them that question? Not time to be humble right now, Coach.
Yeah. No, man, I'm very appreciative, of those coaches, saying those things. I was two-time All-Met.
First team All-Met, or?
Well, I was actually in '89. I was the only underclassman on the All-Met team. Okay. That's with Grant Hill and all of those guys when they was on the All-Met team. And then the following year, first team All-Met. I was a 4-year varsity starter. Came into Potomac with such rich tradition at Potomac. It's kind of unheard of, for a freshman to come in, not just make the varsity at Potomac High School, but to start, and I played with guys like Jason Scott, Boston University, Monty Williams, first round draft pick for the Knicks, who played at Notre Dame, and countless Paul Curtis, McNeese State, and Patrick Evans, University of Delaware, and new guys like Byron Tucker, who played at NC State, and Donald Grant at Old Dominion and American University.
These are all guys who played on your high school team?
These are all guys who kind of played a little bit before me.
Okay.
But the guys that I've played with, Jason Scott, Monty Williams, and those guys, we won the state championship when I was a sophomore.
Was that the only state chip you won?
That was the only one I won, but we went 2 out of 4 years.
Okay.
Lost in that my senior year at the buzzer.
Yeah.
Versus Duval. They had guy Stacy Robinson Jr.
Oh, okay.
Carl Turner. They had a lot of really good players.
And what classification were you guys?
That was 3A, 2A, 1A.
Okay.
Yeah, at that particular time. Right. But I was considered to be the #1 ranked player in the DMV in my class coming out of high school. First team, all county. I think Johnny Rhodes wound up being Mr. Basketball coming out of Dunbar that year. But, I was just another one of the guys who kind of fell in line with the rich tradition down at Potomac. I was very fortunate to have a great coach who grabbed me and wouldn't let me leave the gymnasium. I had the opportunity and the blessing to watch, as a freshman, a guy like Monty Williams, who was the first one in the gym before school started and the last one to leave when school was out.
So is it ironic that you looked up to Monty in high school and he becomes an NBA coach, and now you've kind of found your niche in the coaching world?
Well, you know what? Monty Williams, became a coach and at the highest level in the NBA, and you got Renard Johnson, who's the head coach of Potomac, who was another Potomac great. You know, I'm sure all of those guys can really speak to just the impact or the impression left on us from Coach Hickman, you know, and just wanted to be able to give back, you know. For myself, you know, I kind of looked at myself as manufactured. You know, I was made in the gym. You know, I had all the physical talents and the athletic ability, but my skill for the game was developed in the gym. You know, and I think if anything that I was known for, it was being a gym rat.
So you go to Texas. At the time, was Texas as renowned as it is now for basketball? I mean, it was, top 25 school, maybe, fairly often.
Yeah, I mean, Tom Pennis, who just gotten the job, he was coming from Rhode Island, where he took the Rhode Island teams to the NCAA tournament, and then I don't know if it was the Sweet 16 or the Elite 8 or one of those two, but he took Rhode Island pretty far and wound up taking the Texas job. And they had an awesome background at the time. You know, their style of play, which was really entertaining for me. You know, the reason why I chose the University of Texas. You know, their guards did majority of the scoring. They ran a fast-paced offense, get up and down the floor, I thought it was going to be a great opportunity for me, you know, but they were an up-and-coming program. Okay. You know, I was being heavily recruited by University of Maryland when Gary Williams was there. There was, the whole nine, but I kind of knew that I wanted to get away from home, and so that's where I kind of focused on, the schools that was going to allow me to be able to do that.
Did things not work out to your liking at Texas? I mean, I know you transferred to Delaware, and I think most people would say that's coming down the ladder. Go into a little bit of detail about that.
Well, I was what you consider to be an impatient freshman. I came in with all these accolades and, not knowing that, it's the next level, and sometimes you got to come in situations and you got to pay your dues, and I was getting playing time, but I didn't think that 10 to 12 minutes as a freshman of me coming in was enough for me,
right.
Looking at it now, I wish I would have, hung in there. If I had the right people to say, hey, man, you got to stick and stay. Hey, man, it's just your freshman year. Right. When I talked to Coach Penders, no one wanted me to leave the program, but I was sitting behind a gentleman by the name of B.J. Tyler. B.J. Tyler was a first-round draft pick by the 76ers. So, it's one of those, odd situations, and I wound up transferring after 1 year. BJ winds up getting hurt the summer that I leave, and a walk-on wound up starting at the point guard at the University of Texas, And you never see those things coming, but that's why, even right now in my coaching, it's part of the testimony that I give back to the kids about how you got to be able to see things through, and sometimes, it's about the work that you put in, and sometimes you might not be, in a place of comfort immediately, but that's the reason why you got to keep working. You got to keep working, and not looking for the fast sale or the immediate impact, or outcome. You just kind of hang in there, and but even though that took place, I still believe that everything happens for a reason. I had a great opportunity to go to University of Delaware, and maybe that was really my level from the get-go, and so, and going there and being a 3-year starter at the University of Delaware, averaging 38 out of 40 minutes, being one of the career leaders in minutes being played, top 5 or so for a very long time in assists in school history, averaging, about 12 points a game there, being voted, best point guard in the conference, and playing under Mike Bray was absolutely, awesome, and I had the opportunity to finish my career. So when Mike Bray got the job at University of Delaware, it was his first head coaching job leaving Duke University. And so I always, I remind him of that all the time too. Head coach Bray, don't forget that I was your first starting point guard, when he got his head coaching job.
How meaningful is it that you can speak to kids these days about seeing things through, about not transferring at the first sign of adversity? Because it seems like these days, I mean, that's as commonplace as anything in basketball is transfers, whether it be in high school, whether it be in college. I mean, transfers are so commonplace these days. And you went through this, I don't know if ordeal is the right word, but you've been there. And, how meaningful is it that you can really speak from experience to these kids when they're going through some of the issues that you have gone through?
Right. I mean, now it's kind of gotten ridiculous. I mean, that the amount of transfers, on every level too.
Right.
I mean, from high school, and then the amount of transfer, even in college. I mean, to leave in college, it was almost like, you know what I mean? But, now it's just like, it just happens, and I think, it's so much that's out there for kids, and so much that they're, you're kind of used to getting right away, that it's just an old school thing that's missing in terms of being able to see things through, and so for me and my program, which, for me it's a ministry, for me to be able to, help kids understand why it's important, that you're going to work for things, and the harder you work, the more you're going to appreciate it down the line. The more you sow, the more you're going to reap. The ministry of adversity, like, what do you do with adversity? And that's one of the things that's always preached in our program here at Wise. That how are we going to handle adversity? And we can't be so quick to turn our backs on adversity. And I think that's what happens. Like, kids don't know how to handle adversity. When challenges come, they seem to be able to take the easy way out of things, and exit out. And, and again, I wish I had enough people. My high school coach told me, hey man, you gotta hang in there. I know what you're used to, but you just gotta continue to work hard, and things gonna work out for you. Just stay the course. You know what I mean? Yeah. Or as they would say now, trust the process. Right. Trust the process. And but I didn't have enough people, to be able to say, no, you're not going to do that. Yeah. Even though that's what I wanted to do, I needed some people that were strong enough to say, no, you're not going to do that. So in today's terms, I feel like we need more parents. We need more families. We need more people that's in leadership to be able to say, no, you're not going to do that. You're gonna work a little bit harder, for what it is that you want. That adversity that you're facing, that challenge that's right there. We're just gonna work our way through that. And so.
So you finish up at Delaware. What is your first job after Delaware?
Yep, after University of Delaware.
Not basketball job, but just job in general. Maybe your first job was a basketball job.
My first job after University of Delaware was teaching and coaching. My degree was in physical education and health. After University of Delaware, and trying to do some professional basketball things for about 2.5 years or 2 years or so. I got right into coaching.
Prior to that, for 2 years, you were trying to chase
the dream, man. Just like anybody else. I tell you a great story. My senior year, we're playing we lost to Towson in the conference championship. Okay. And Coach Bray pulls me into a meeting, into his office. The very next day, he pulls me into this meeting. He sits me down, and he says, Rob Garner, he talks about, the great year that we had in his first year and how appreciative he was for me being the leader of the team and yada, yada, yada. And he goes on to say, you know, hey, man, like, you're going to be a great coach. Like, you're going to be an outstanding coach, and I want you to come and be a part of the staff, you know, at the University of Delaware, you know. And I was humbled by it, very, very appreciative about it, you know, but my mindset was, you know, hey, I've been really giving this game all that I had since I was probably 6 or 7 years old. You know, my mindset was just like any other young man, you know, I want to play professional basketball. I want to play in the NBA. I want to do this. And so I wanted to give my energy and time and effort into trying to be a professional basketball player. And so, you know, I didn't get the opportunities that I thought I would, you know, and I played in some little small leagues, the ABA League, the Delaware Blue Bombers, and some small time offers to play overseas. And, you know, again, I'm not sure if I really quite had the mindset at that particular time. I had a 2-year-old son who was waiting for me, and I had to very quickly make a decision. You know, am I going to chase this dream, and how long am I going to chase it, or is it really time for me to be a full-time father? You know, and so I made the decision that it was time for me to be a full-time father, and so I wound up coming back to the DMV area, getting a teaching job and coaching job.
Where was that
at Potomac, my alma mater, and coaching under, you know, someone that's very dear to me, Rico Reed, who, you know, I knew Coach Reed since I was a young man in high school. And, you know, it's one thing about that Potomac alumnus, man, it's strong, you know, very supportive, you know, if you come through that tree. He brought me onto the staff and gave me my first, you know, coaching opportunity. I was the junior varsity head coach.
First job.
First
Before
job.
any assistance. First job was
Junior varsity head coach.
Wow.
at Potomac High School.
And how long were you doing that for?
I did that for 4 years.
4 years.
Then I went from there, and I wound up going out to Virginia. So Coach Reed wound up taking the Flint Hill job and going out to Virginia. And then I wound up getting an assistant coaching job at Marshall High School out in Virginia, where I coached under Kevin Weirin. And I think that's when coaching really blossomed for me. I mean, that's, you know, I tell my staff all the time, you know, when you get to that place where you kind of feel like, you know, I kind of thought I was in a particular place where I kind of knew I was pretty good at coaching, you know what I mean? You know, and it wasn't until I really went out to Virginia, man, and got under Kevin Weirin that, I was small time.
What challenges did that job present to you that made you realize that maybe you weren't as good as you thought at the
Well,
time?
you know, the first thing I realized was that not all players going to make great coaches. You know, that's just not necessarily true. You know what I mean? And I just thought because of my playing experience, like that was going to be sufficient enough, you know, but it was way more about coaching and being a head coach that goes involved, you know, into that. I mean, Kevin Weirin was one of the most organized people that I've ever been around. You know, his ability to, you know, bring people together and be on one accord was amazing. You know what I mean? You know, him being able to get the best out of the talent that he had was something that was, you know, refreshing for me. You know, I came from PG County where, and I'm not saying that we don't coach in PG County. I'm just saying where PG County is fast, the athletic ability is off the chart, you know, and so, you know, you can kind of, you know, if you're a coach, there are some people that can hide behind that, you know. In Virginia, man, you don't really have that athletic ability and things of that nature. So you really have to coach, and you really have to put kids in situations to be able to win games, you know. And that's what I was able to see on an everyday basis, how he was able to put these teams that I don't know how they was winning some of the games. You know what I mean? Like we shouldn't have won a lot of those games, but because of his coaching ability and how those kids believed so much in the coach and the staff, and fundamentally sound, that really won me over.
Is it fair to say you were a little out of your comfort zone when you left PG, something you were very familiar with, and went to Marshall?
Well, I wouldn't say out of my comfort zone. I would just say, there was just a difference, and one of the reasons I wouldn't say I was out of the comfort zone is because I'm a point guard. Like, I've always been a point guard, so for me, the IQ of the game has always been there, but I think that being able to go out to Virginia and just coach different kids and different styles of play, and where now the importance of the fundamental of a box out means a lot, versus you might have a kid in the inner city, or you got a kid that I'm coaching at Potomac who can just out jump everybody. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or, now, running things where the execution is extremely important, And so I just thought that aspect that God allowed me to be able to be involved with really took me to a whole nother level in my coaching.
So you leave Marshall, what's next?
I'm at Marshall, and Kevin Wehren steps down, and the head coaching job is open. There were several people on that coaching staff, that's been with Coach Wehren for a good minute, and really good coaches. Kevin Roller, who's now the head coach he was the head coach at McLean, but now he's the head coach at Madison. I mean, he's a genius, a mastermind. You had a Jerry Lynn, who oversees a really good AAU program out in Northern Virginia. Tim Brown, who's the head coach right now out there. I mean, you just had several inspiring head coaches on that staff, and here it is. I'm the new guy. I'm pretty much the new guy on the staff. 3 years in, those guys been with Kevin Wehren for a good solid minute. But I was going to apply for that head coaching job, and but the head coaching position at Friendly High School opened up, and I thought it was a great opportunity. I called my head coach, Coach Hickman. I talked to several people about it. I felt like those 3 years out in Virginia just really prepared me to be a head coach, and I felt like coming back into the PG County, I was ready to now be the head coach and help a certain kid that I felt like in the community that I grew up in was going to need me just a tad bit more.
How long were you at Friendly for?
4 years.
Take me through those 4 years briefly. How was the team when you inherited it, and how was it when you left it?
When I got it, the first thing I thought about was the tradition that was there. I mean, 2 years prior to me getting that head coaching job was probably maybe 2 of the worst years that Friendly has ever had. They were below 500. They might have won 6 or 7 games. And so they had a couple of down years.
How long before you got there was Sam Young there?
Yeah, Sam Young was there. Sam Young was at Friendly when I was the junior varsity coach at Potomac.
Okay,
so he was there from like 98, 2000,
right.
He was there. And so, but you remember, those years, Sam Young, Chris Howard, those guys, Big Gus, and, they had some really, really good players. Andrew Washington. I mean, they had some back-to-back state championship years and some really like dominance, those guys. And so I knew about the history, and Friendly was good when I was in high school. So they've always had, a winning tradition. And so, and even though they had those 2 years or so, 2 to 3 years prior that wasn't going so well, I just really felt comfortable. I really thought, that I could be the person that comes in and really help turn that program around. And so, the first thing I thought that was extremely important was that I get my staff together, and I was able to get a great staff for my first year. And so going to being a head coach at Friendly. And we went from 5 or 6 games that they had prior to 13 games, so we went 13 and like 10, something like that in our first year, and lost in I think like the first or like the second round of the playoffs. And then the next year, we wound up losing the state championship, going 24-2, winning, the county. We lost the county championship. We lost the law in the county championship. But we won the regional championship. We won the conference championship. We ran into the Barton brothers at Lake Clifton, and man, they had an unbelievable team, and so they wound up beating us for the state championship. But it was a great season. And my second year being a head coach and having that type of success. And we just had some great kids at Friendly High School and a great coaching staff. And, it was just continue to, keep that success going, tapping into the Fort Washington community over there, and getting kids in that community who for a good little while was deciding to not go to Friendly. We're going to go to National Christian, we're going to go to whatever the private schools are, because Friendly just wasn't producing what they had been in the past. And, just being able to, jumpstart that community back up for basketball, because the football team, don't forget now, the football team was really dominating, during that time. The Hayden brothers and things of that nature, was state championships and, producing all these college Division I players and then future NFL guys. So we were able to kind of, get the program turned around again. And, the following year we lost in a regional championship. And then a year after that, we wound up winning everything again, the conference, and actually beating Wise at that particular time for the county championship.
And how did your season end?
We lost to Milford Mill. Justin Jennifer was a problem.
That was
At Milford Mill. That was 2011.
So Isaiah Miles was probably on that team. Went to St. Joe's.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. They were really good.
Yeah, they had a great.
Yeah. They were really good. We wound up losing to them in the state semifinals.
Okay.
And and that was it. And then it was time for the next challenge for Rob Garner. And kind of felt like in those 4 years, we were able to do some amazing things. But I'm a man of challenge, and I needed the next challenge. And Wise presented itself, and I was able to come aboard.
Talk about that transition. I know after going to Friendly and really kind of bringing that program back to respectability, I mean, it must be tough to, even though you won a challenge, after you kind of build things up to where you're happy with them, to jump ship again probably isn't an easy decision.
Right. It's never easy making those type of decisions. You invest in the lives of kids, and then, you have to leave that. It's hard. Separation is hard, regardless of what form or fashion it's in. But my goal has always been to coach on a higher level. Even today, I want to coach on a higher level. I want to coach collegiate basketball. That's always been my ambition. That's always been what the mindset has been. And so, at some point in time, I had to figure out, whether or not leaving Friendly High School and coming to Wise High School was going to get me closer to that goal. And ultimately, after discussing it with my family, my wife, my children, my coaching staff, I kind of felt like it was the right thing to do.
We'll get back to Wise in 1 second, but you just brought up the point that one day you hope to be a college coach. I know you're a very dedicated family man. There's not many college coaching jobs within driving distance of here. I mean, there's a handful, but from the national landscape, there's a lot, and there's not many here. That would be a major decision that would impact a lot more people than just yourself.
Right.
What, like, if you got a job offered at Tulsa University, at somewhere that wasn't right around here. I mean, take me through that conversation with your wife and your children.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of the first things when I met my wife that I had to really explain. Like, this is something that I really have passion for. You know, my passion for this game, ultimately, this isn't just it for me. Like, so I had to really express, like, what I really want, and how far I really want to go with coaching, and so I explained that, I said,
Gotcha.
Before we even say our I do's, hey, let's know how far I really want to go with this, and what that means, in terms of the family. We were very fortunate to have older kids, so we really only have really one baby, what we would consider our baby, but she was on board, and that meant a lot, and her being able, her knowing what my ambition was, and her being able to, and she has her own, meaning my wife, she's an educator at the highest level, and so her willing to put some things to the side and, let go of some things to maybe follow me, and what my dreams are, obviously gives me the strength today, and although I have the ambition to coach collegiately, it's not something that I'm running around chasing like a madman.
Right.
I'm more than, blessed and content about where I am right now and where God has me in terms of, pouring into these young men's lives that I'm here, what I'm doing right now, but if that door opens, then I believe that that's where God wants me to be. If the door never opens, then it's just okay. It's not where God wants me to be, but, I'm just sharing where I want to go,
we appreciate
and
that.
hopefully that matches, hopefully at some point in time,
So let's rewind a little bit. You get the Wise job after 4 successful years at Friendly. You come to a school that had been open at that point for, I don't know, 5 years, 4 years, 6 years, something like that. How long had Wise been open when you got the job?
Let's see. I took the job in 11, 12. I think they opened up like at 5 or 6, so maybe 5 years or so.
So you come into a relatively new school, but they had some success in those 5 years. But you bring the program to a place right now where it may be perhaps the best program in the state of Maryland, if not the best, in the top handful. Definitely in that conversation year in, year out. Take me through the ride real quick. I mean, I've got some specific questions to ask you, but just give me your quick reflections on where you've brought Wise.
I'm very humble, Mark, that you would say that you think that our program, reflects that highly, man. That brought a smile to my face, and one of the things that, I said to my staff when I first got the job, because OJ, Coach Johnson, who was here, was doing a great job. I mean, he was, Wise was, the year we played them when I was at Friendly, they were undefeated in the conference. I mean, they were always pretty good. I went to my staff and I told them directly, like, once I made the decision to take this job, I went to my coaching staff and I told them, I'm not going to take it if they wouldn't go with me. And that's how much, my coaching staff means so much to me. This isn't just a Rob Garner thing. You know what I mean? Like, this coaching staff is every bit a part of who I am today and the direction of Wise.
So how many of those guys did you bring over?
All of them.
And how many guys who had been at Wise State? Any?
No. I come in 11, 12. My third year, we wound up winning the state championship. My second year, we wound up we started a string of regional championships, You know, the first thing for me is I had to identify was why. How come Wise was so good and they wasn't able to finish the deals? Like, how come they would have really good records and win the conference and Roosevelt would beat them in the first round year in and year out? You know, like, what was going on? You know, and so I quickly identified with where the strengths was in the conference. You know, when I was at Friendly and I got that job, automatically you knew that Mike Glick was a staple in that league. You know, Coach Howard at Largo were staples in that league. You know what I mean? Tyrone Massenberg at Douglas, staples, man. These are guys who were running the league, you know.
Yep.
And the first thing for me was, you know, I got to be a part of that conversation. You know, we had to get to a place where we can, you know, get this program over the line, over the hump, you know, so to say. And so we just identified what the challenges were.
What would you say you and Roosevelt, would you say you guys are rivals? I mean, you guys are obviously the two best teams in PG County dating back for the past 5-7 years. I mean, it seems like every year it's one of you two going at it. You guys have played great games. This past season you had an amazing playoff game against them. Would you consider that a rivalry, or what? How would you consider Wise and Roosevelt?
You know what? I mean, rivalries, they almost come and go sometimes, you know what I mean? I would be very curious to what Brendan O'Connell thought, you know, about that question. You know what I mean?
Well, I'll be seeing him soon. So.
Oh, good. No, I mean, when you've been so successful as Roosevelt has been, it's almost a rivalry with everybody.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Personally, it's a challenge. I don't even know if I look at it as a rivalry as much as I look at it as a challenge. And for so long, Roosevelt and Brendan O'Connell have dominated the 4A that, you know, for me, you know, it's the challenge. It's just, you know, my first couple of years, you know, we couldn't beat Rose when I got the job at Wise. We couldn't beat them, you know, and we would have the game won and be up and, you know, and have the lead in the crunch time, and Roosevelt would find a way to win the basketball game, you know. And our first year, which was my third year, you know, and that particular time, you only play Roosevelt one time during the season. And if you get them again, you get them in the playoffs.
Right.
So if you don't get them the first time, nobody else wins, nobody else beats them.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you have those type of games. If you don't beat Bowie the one time that you got them, if you don't beat Flowers, you know, when they had Lanier and they were really good, you know, the Suitlins with Roddy Peters, you got to beat them the one time that you have them, or, you know, you're kind of out of the hunt, so to say, for the conference, you know. So when we had Micah Teal and Justice Sneed, and we had that making of a really good team, and we were able to get over that hump, I think a lot of that confidence transferred over to the kids, and now they, you know, success matches success. You know what I mean? Like we look forward to playing Roosevelt because they present the biggest challenge.
This past season, you guys had one of the best seasons the team has had in the DMV, especially in the public sector. I mean, H.D. Woodson the year before, obviously the undefeated campaign was right there too. But up until your last game of the season, you guys were the talk of DMV basketball, hands down. You guys got upset. Take me through the last game of the year. I mean, does that game still keep you up at night? I mean, that was one of the more monumental upsets from people I've talked to and in my own kind of estimation that we've seen in a long, long time.
Yeah, you know, very, very mixed emotions about that, about that game, you know. Really felt like we went into that game really prepared.
Do you?
You know, really prepared for that game.
I mean, were you you had to have been expecting them to take the air out of the ball.
We knew, well, one, we knew that they had the capacity. We knew that they could do that, you know, but would they be able to do it because of where I thought we would be within the game.
Right.
It's different. You can't take the air out of the ball if you're down
behind.
10.
Of course.
You know what I mean? If you're down 15, if you're down 12, you know what I mean?
But you had to have a plan in your head. If they're winning, they're going to take the air out of the ball. How do I respond, right?
Right. Which is, it's funny, man. Like, I really thought we were prepared, although there was a lot of challenges that week throughout the school, trying to keep the kids focused and things of that nature.
I'm sure every team in that.
Yeah, I know. But we had to move from campus. We wound up moving off campus to go have practice just to eliminate more of the distraction.
Yeah.
Like we was just trying to really buckle down, and really focus,
Yeah.
And all week I kept telling my staff, all week we were watching film with the kids, and I kept saying to them, like, this isn't Rock Creek. Like, this team isn't Roosevelt. They're not Bowie. Like, they're not some of these other, like, really big teams that we've been fortunate to play. You know what I mean? Like, I really believe that Quince Orchard was going to present the biggest challenge that we had all season.
Really?
Because when you watch the film, they had a group of kids that was disciplined.
Yeah.
No matter what, they were going to run their system. And all of their players could dribble, pass, and shoot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for us, all week we were going over, how we were going to defend that, because that's not an easy defend. You know what I mean? Like, if I come over and help, and we're teaching principles of stop the basketball completely, make him kick this basketball. You know what I mean? Take the charge on overdrives. And they're so fundamentally sound, they made extra passes, and that kick was to somebody who could shoot.
They are fundamentally sound, but you guys had such an edge in the athleticism department, in the height department. I mean, there were elements of their game that presented problems for you or things you hadn't seen before, but you guys had so many edges over them in things that not only are they not accustomed to, but things that they should not have been able to deal with. I mean, what do you have to say about that?
No, I'm going to take you through one, and then I'm going to take you through why I really believe Quince Orchard won the game.
Okay.
We didn't really get into what we felt like our game plan was against Quince Orchard to the second half. I mean, by the time the kids kind of shook their heads and realized, like, oh, okay, Quince Orchard can play, you know what I mean? It's halftime and we're down I think maybe double digits, or if not double digits, we're close
11,
to it, something like that.
19 maybe?
Yeah. And then comes the emergence of Deron Barnes,
Right.
You know what I mean? Which we kept trying to. There was something missing between the staff and the team. I can't say exactly what it was, but I don't know if I was doing a really good job communicating with them, like what we really needed to continue to do.
Okay.
Which was attack Quince Orchard.
Use your height.
Use
your
our height,
athleticism.
all of those things. And for some reason, we just, I don't know, we wasn't following the game plan as well. And then in the second half comes, I think we're doing a better job. The point guard who was really good. I mean, he was he didn't even have a big game.
Matt Kelly.
Matt
the
Kelly.
shooter. Yeah.
So, but he was running the team so well. Firestein, we knew he was a really good overall player, and there was some of those other guys that just played games of their lives,
Yeah.
We took the lead with about 3 minutes or so. We have a 6-point lead or so in the fourth quarter. And, Mark, I don't think I did the job that I needed to do as the head coach in terms of putting the guys in a position to be able to win the game. When I really look back at it, I'm not sure, and I understand. I get it. I know there is a certain responsibility on the kids too. At the end of the day, the kids play the game, right? And they've been playing long enough. They've been in big games before, you know. We've been down before, you know, and so we know all that. But I'm not sure if I made the adjustments that was necessary. In the end, in that point of time, whether it was, you know, this person should be out, this person should be in, you know, speaking clearly to the guys in terms of what it is that we want to do in this basketball game. You know, we got to a point where we were attacking them, we take the lead. And then I bring the guys further away from the basket, right? Where
So
it seemed like...
Let me interject for 1 second before you say that. I met with Paul Foringer last week. I did one of these with him.
Yeah.
And I asked him in great detail about that game. And he said the one thing that just surprised the hell out of him was after you guys took the lead, you guys pulled a Quince Orchard and took the air out of the ball. And he's telling me, how does the number one team in the DMV do something that they probably haven't done all year long? Right. And I know you had just begun to allude to that.
Right.
So I'm curious to kind of answer his questions and questions that other people had. Yeah. Something that I'm sure you guys had taken air out of the ball in late game situations with no shot clock, but with 3-4 minutes left in the game, you guys are holding the ball.
Not the intention. The intention was not to bring Quince Orchard out to take the air out of the ball. The intention was to bring Quince Orchard out to bring them further away from the basket to attack them even more in the spacing, right? That was the intention, you know. And when they had to start trapping, you know, that means they got even, you know, we were moving them around, which was good, you know. Right. So that means now we got 5 guys on the floor who could really attack the basket from spacing, from anywhere on the floor. And we would run sets and things of that nature. We would bring teams out, and now, and instead of having them packed into the lane, we're bringing them all out. Now Quince Orchard has the trap. We're making the extra pass right back. We're going to the rim.
So what went wrong?
It didn't. My kids didn't take that piece really good. Like, my ability to communicate that to my guys fell short. It fell short. So where they were now passive, you know, pass, and, you know, a Mike Spade now allowing the guy to be trapped, or Brent Pegram, you know, who was faster than anybody out there, could get around, and Bonds at any point now, and his man got to check him now, almost free throw line. I mean, at the hash mark extended now, and he's getting past guys. It just didn't seem like they were responding well to that adjustment. And there were times in timeouts we're saying, like, guys, no, look, I know, no, we're not doing that. Like, you know, we want to continue to attack. And so I thought, you know, to myself, and after watching the film a whole lot, I've watched that game numerous times. Yeah. You know, some coaches can't watch it. I'm going to tell you in a second why I've watched it so many times. That was an adjustment that I didn't need to make. You know, sometimes, man, you just overthink things. Like, that was an adjustment of pulling them out that didn't need to make. It's not like as we were driving from the 3-line in and really attacking them in our offenses that they were getting charge calls made. There was a couple of calls towards the end that kind of went either way, that kind of made me think, well, you know, okay, let's move Quince Orchard around then. Let's bring them out. Let's move them around now. Now Bonds, maybe you can, Mike, you know, Brent, Brandon, now on the attack after moving around. Now they got to leave the trap. Now maybe we can get a little more cleaner looks at the rim. But instead of just allowing them, as we built that, to just keep going, it's something I think about, you know, and I say, you know, one of those moments, you know, as a coach that I say, okay, you overcoached, you know, in that moment. And so, and then on the back end, man, you know, hey, we had a destiny all the way to that point too. You know, it was our destiny to come back and beat Rose in the regional championship with a game like that. It was our destiny to win that that big game that meant not just so much for Wise, but for every public school going against a private school and being number one. I told these kids years ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, a year ago, the beginning of the season that we were going to be number one. I looked them in their eyes and I knew that. I believed that. I believed that that's, that was the outcome for that senior group and what they meant for our program and how far they were going to take our program. They can tell you, like I prophesied that we were going to be ranked in the country to my coaching staff. Did they believe me or not? Maybe, maybe not. I'm not sure. But I wasn't just saying it just because. I really felt like we had the markings of doing something special, and so.
How do you move past this loss and use it as a learning experience, which I think is going to be instrumental for Wise basketball, for the few returning players who are on that team, and definitely for you as a coach and your coaching staff?
Listen, Quince Orchard had a destiny, period. Like our destiny, it was what it was. Quince Orchard had a destiny too, and that's why I refused to allow my program, my kids, to speak down to it. At the end of the day,
I'm not saying speak down to it. I'm just saying, how do you use that to help you?
No. I wasn't saying that based upon your question.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I was just saying because your question was how we use it.
Right.
Because we will use it because we go back to the adversity thing.
Okay.
This is adversity because sometimes in life you're going to work very hard at things and you're going to still fall short. What do you do with that?
Right.
Does that mean that everything that you've done doesn't count or you're not as successful? The learning experience of teaching my young kids, that's inspiring young men, of how to deal with that. You know what I mean? Don't make excuses. It wasn't the officials. It wasn't this. It wasn't that. We had every bit of control of the reason of why we would win or lose. And sometimes, we got to be able to teach, how to handle ourselves in a loss. And so, I'm just very excited about now adding these next challenges of, what to do now after having a great season like that and losing at the end, how much motivation that has given me to be even better as a coach and to put my kids in a position to try to go back and redemption.
Real quick, shot clock. How do you think the game would have been different last year with the shot clock, and what do you think the shot clock means for Maryland State basketball moving forward?
Well, you could say that the game could have been different. Who knows, man? They wouldn't be able to have held the ball as long as they did. And, hey, man, I tell everybody, man, if I was in that position, I would have done the same thing. It's a part of the game. And if it's allowed in the game if strategically, then, hey, man, you got it. It's not my problem. It's yours to be able to make the adjustment. So, I wasn't mad at all, And so, I'm sure Coach Foringer would have found a way, after being through the shot clock all year, how to use the shot clock, So
how do you think the shot clock moving forward affects PG basketball and Wise specifically?
Well, a lot of teams already play fast,
right.
But specifically for Wise, I think, first of all, I think it's good, I'm happy that it's here. We've been doing a shot clock. Even though it hasn't been in the county, we've been using the shot clock all the time. So we use the shot clock in practice. We play in summer leagues at the Math and so forth. When we had our summer league here, we used the shot clock. So we use it for various different reasons. But
so it's not that big of an adjustment.
Well, no,
end of game seems to be.
But yes, because now it really counts now, So now,
right.
Even though we was using the shot clock in practice to help the kids to pick the pace up in the offense, we can't loaf. We got to get right into it. What we're trying to do: pass quickly, cut quickly. Now we really got to do those things.
Right,
You know what
right.
I mean? So strategically, you know, in my opinion, it always gives the other team an opportunity, a chance to be in the game. No matter how, you know, how many points you're down, you're going to always have a chance to be in this game. And then, you know, strategically, you know, you're going to have to be more of a disciplined team. I mean, you know, just in terms of the things that we're trying to do, you know, where now we're saying, you know, we got to be able to execute within 4 passes versus 10 passes now. Like the mindset of execution has to be a whole lot more sharper. You know, like all summer long, we've been just talking about, hey man, like we can really defensively, you know, we can really get after teams. I think a lot more, because I think kids can play defense for 35 seconds versus, you know, 2 minutes, so to say. You know, so
from a coaching perspective, how much more thought are you going to have to put into, okay, end of a game situation, there's 39 seconds left, there's 35 on the shot clock, do I foul or do I don't foul? End of the second quarter, there's 44 on the shot clock, do I tell my kids to go for a 2-for-1? And do they know how to get an efficient shot in a 2-for-1 situation? From a coaching perspective, how much more, you know, how is that going to affect things?
Oh, I think that's going to, when it comes down to coaching. In other words, the shot clock is going to bring the real coaches out.
Right.
I mean, you know what I mean? Like, you're going to have to spend, like, I've already been meeting with my staff, like, every other week, you know, just building the new system of how we want to do things, you know what I'm saying, in terms of with the shot clock, you know, but, you know, strategically, mentally, and coaching-wise, you know, you're going to have to be on your A game, you know, and so, I think the cream's going to rise to the top, man, you know, and those coaches that's, you know, maybe more acceptable just letting their kids play now going to have to really put some time in.
Give me the all-wise team since Rob Garner has taken over here. You've been here for 6 seasons, 7 seasons?
6 years, man.
6 years.
Wow, this is the longest I've been at a place, man. I must really like Wise, man. No, man, God has done amazing things for my time here. I've coached some really outstanding players too.
I mean, Mike Spate, Mike Attell, 100% done and done. Fill the rest in for me.
Mike Attell is definitely in the conversation of the greatest player to have ever played at Wise. You know what I mean? Along with, I think, Michael Spate, you know what I mean? You know, Daryl Traham, and even though I didn't coach him, you know, he has to be in the conversation of some of the greatest players that have played. But just in my tenure of coaching, I definitely would say Mike Attell, Wayne Langston, who probably had one of the greatest 1 year. You know, when I got the job at Wise, Wayne was a senior. He hadn't played that much, you know, all the way up until we got him. I mean, he averaged double, man, 18 and 12. You know, right now he's a pro player playing overseas, you know, making 6 figures, doing great. You know what I mean? But you got players like that, Keith Shivers, who for so long you couldn't even talk about Wise without mentioning, you know, Keith Shivers, you know. And then I'm gonna have to say Justice Sneed. I'm gonna have to say Justice Sneed as my point guard, and I'm gonna say that because he's, you know, and Brent Pegram has had an outstanding career, you know, from the point guard position. Justice Sneed was probably one of the only players, along with a kid named by the name of Sherrod Baltimore, that I coached at Friendly, who was an actual coach on the floor. I mean, they just controlled the entire game. I never had a worry coaching at Wise while Justice Sneed was on the floor.
You remind you of yourself a little bit in that capacity?
Absolutely. Not so much as in playing. His game, his style was a little different.
Right,
but his mental control over the game, you know, and how the team and the guys responded to him. Like I always said, Mike Attell was the actual bus that everybody got on, but Justice Sneed was the driver, man. Like he drove the bus, you know, he drove the program, And then, you got kids like Deron Barnes. I mean, Deron might be one of the best, along with Micah Till, the best all-around players that we've had, and so, we've just been very fortunate to have a lot of talent. The guys, just play well together. How about Trevor Brown? I mean, he might not be, on the first team, but how many players had more, greater, games that Trevor Brown did when he had those 2 games up in the, up in the playoffs for the state, man. I mean, Trevor Brown was sensational all year, though, and we had him for 1 year as well. So, sorry, guys, if I didn't include some of you guys on there, but, I think those probably be the ones.
Talk to me a little bit about your relationship with God. I know you're a very religious man. I've seen you, praying after games with your teams, before games, at practices. You allude to God a lot. Tell me about that.
Well, number one, it's a fine line, right? I mean, it's a fine line between God and team, and God and school and things of that nature. People want to stay away from it, and Mark, I can't shy away from what I've been called to do. At the end of the day, I understand more now than ever in my life that, coaching is the vessel, but that's not really who I am. I'm a minister for real. I'm a minister who coaches, and so, the job that I have in terms of being able to show the kids much more than just basketball. Hey man, like, where did you get this gift from? Like, and, hey man, you got to believe in something besides yourself, and, bringing guys together and believing and having faith, and things of that nature. That's just who I am. And I don't shy away from it. I don't back away from it. Coaches, what their philosophy is and what their foundational roots are in terms of this game is what it is. I just understand that for mine, that it's a ministry, and you can't leave this program and not know and not understand the power of prayer. And when I hear the kids doing interviews with people like yourself, and the first thing they're saying is, I like to give God the glory, and that it's not like a popular cliche to say because LeBron says it or Kobe says it, or I'm doing it because such and such is popular to do, but they're doing it because of the amazing things that they have seen because of what has been shown to them.
Coach, what if you had a player on your team who didn't subscribe to your religious beliefs? If you had a player who said, I don't believe in God. Not only do I not want to hear it, but I'm not going to talk about that. Or what if the administration told you that this is a public school, this is not a private school, you don't have the authority to express your religious beliefs? I'm curious. I know that's kind of an in-depth question, but I'm just curious how you would respond to that.
No, man, that's an awesome question. Mark, the only way I can answer that is to say, I can only be who I am. I can't be anybody else.
But you're a basketball coach in addition to a religious man. So what if they said, if you're going to be the basketball coach, you can't, express your religious beliefs in the manner you do?
Well, number one, again, I can only be who I am. You know what I mean? And I don't force my religion or what my relationship is with God on anybody. The kids do a lot of those things. The kids, they do the prayer.
Hey, I got the prayer.
Yes, sir.
Lord, thank you for life, hope, and strength. Thank you for waking us all up this morning to play this big game. Lord, I thank you for helping us get this big W and prove to everyone that we're number one.
Yes,
in
sir.
Jesus' name we pray, amen. Amen. Family on three. 1, 2, 3. Hey.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not like I'm force feeding these guys and running some type of, religious thing going on. But, I can only walk and talk in the way that I am. If someone was to say, Rob Garner, listen, you're not going to be able to coach and walk and talk the walk for Christ. then I would say, here's my resignation. Here's my resignation.
Point blank.
Point blank. I wouldn't be able to do it.
Wow.
Because if I change that, then I'm changing who I am.
Right.
And that's, again, I'm a minister that's coaching. You know what I mean? And while I'm setting up kids and teaching them how, basketball and strategic things about the game of basketball, I have the awesome responsibility to be able to teach them about faith. Just faith. Just faith alone. You know what I mean? And why that's important, or what is it, or whatever the case might be. You know, but I'm not walking around like I'm the Pope, though. You know what I mean? But I do believe, in Christ, and everybody that knows that about me, and I wear it on my sleeve, man. It's not an issue.
Well, I appreciate the insight on that.
Yes, sir.
All right. Last thing I want to ask you, Coach, is about the transfers at Wise High School. You guys seem to get a lot of transfers, and people are curious how this fits within the jurisdiction of the rules, why you're so, I don't know if lucky is the right word, but you guys lost most of your returning players last year, and in Summer League this year, it seemed like you had a lot of pieces from other schools. I mean, you got Brandon Howe last year. I mean, I don't remember the intricacies of your rosters year in and year out, but it seems like you get more transfers than the average school does. Granted, you're one of the biggest schools in the state, but I'm just curious how this all ties together.
And hopefully, Mark, I'm not getting super spiritual with you, okay? But I can only tell you what the truth is. Okay. That's all we want. And that's all I'll give you. I tell my coaching staff every single season that we're never going to have to worry about players at Wise, just because of the ministry. It's the ministry, that I believe that God sends the players. God sends that. God works all that out. Kids that was in private school who now, for whatever reason is not working, want to come back to their home school, or people that's relocating from one community to the next, or, people that's taking advantage of, whatever transfer policies that they have in the county, and they're taking advantage of them.
Are there loopholes in terms of transfer policies that exist? I mean, I'm just curious, is there like an academic thing that you guys offer here, that a kid who lives in a different school district can transfer because they're interested in that particular academic aspect? I don't know the answer to these questions. I'm curious if there are loopholes out there that exist, or maybe loopholes isn't the right word, but fill me in.
Yeah, I wouldn't use loopholes. Like it's not loopholes. I mean, there's reasons why kids can transfer within Prince George's County, and it's legal. There's a transfer process that takes place. There's schools that's on the transfer process list. Kids can take advantage of the transfer process, and if they choose, they can transfer to those schools that's on that list. That's not a hidden thing. Like people know that. That's and you can not be in the boundary of the school, and for whatever reason, you can transfer to that school as long as they're on that list. There are schools that have programs. Wise has programs, that's in the school, that academic programs that other schools, academies and things of that nature that other schools don't have. Wise, according to how it was communicated to me, was built to be a regional school. I mean, that's why the boundaries are so much bigger than others. You know what I mean? A lot of times, the kids that's transferring to Wise were kids that should have been at Wise anyway. But people look at it as though that the only boundaries that fit Wise is Upper Marlboro. False. We get kids from Clinton. We get kids from Largo area. We get kids from the Forestville area. Like, our boundaries, just extend so wide, that, where, let's say a Largo or a Douglas, their boundaries are really confined,
Right.
and, Wise boundaries, happens to be a little broader than a lot of other schools,
We appreciate you clearing that up, because I know a lot of people talk about the transfers at Wise, and to hear from the horse's mouth is,
Yeah.
is vital.
Yeah, I've heard so many stories, Mark.
Yeah.
There's a difference between legal recruiting and illegal recruiting. And in my case, legal recruiting would take place with schools that what we consider feeder schools that feed into Wise High School. So we have elementary schools, we have middle schools, that feed into Wise High School. And by rule, I can go and present Wise to every last kid that's within the boundaries of Wise High School. So all those elementary schools and middle schools that feed into Wise High School, I would do just like any other coach. We'll go over to those schools and introduce myself and be a part of, the elementary community, the middle school community. Follow them when they're playing middle school sports. Follow them when they're playing boys and girls sports. Things of that nature. And so, recruiting can be done as long as it's done right. And it's being done right with the feeder schools into your program. Illegal recruiting would take place with schools of the same nature that do not feed into Wise High School. And so, that part of recruiting Rob Garner doesn't take place with. So, those things don't happen. Rob Garner is not out in various different communities, sell pitching Wise High School to communities that's not involved at Wise High School. Those things doesn't take place. It's no need for me to go and try to sell pitch something to recruit kids, from other boundaries that doesn't come, to Wise High School.
Everyone talks about transfers coming into Wise. I'm curious if you guys ever get, affected by kids transferring out of your program that, would be important players for your teams.
Right. I mean, I don't know how other people look at it. At the end of the day, it's been a blessing for us in terms of the kids that has transferred in. We talk about Brandon Howell. We talk about Saquon Jameson. We talk about Monty Simpkins. We talk about Markel Young. I mean, I've had kids to have had transferred in that have, made an enormous impact on our program. But I've also have had kids that have left dents in our programs by transferring out and going to, whether you leave Wise High School to attend a private school. I've had some really good players. I mean, Division I players that have left Wise High School and for whatever reason, transfer out and go to another school. And yet, those same kids that transferred out, they still call me coach. They still call me. They still invite me to the games. Matter of fact, some of those kids, I done been to their baptism. So, it's never personal. It's never personal. Does it hurt? Absolutely it hurts because you invest in kids, but they're not trophies. These kids aren't trophies to me. They're not, something that I just, put on a shelf. So if a young man that's in my program feel as though there's somewhere else that they need to be able to go, to help push them to where they need to be, then, I encourage that.
Last thing I want to ask you, same question I've asked every coach out there. You can't name yourself. Pick up basketball game today, all the coaches in the DMV. Who's your first pick?
Man, you got so many, man. You got Malcolm Battle at Chavez. He was just a hard-working guy, man. Just worked so hard. Mike Jones, who I believe on those great teams at DeMatha was the X factor every single season. They talked about everybody else, and he was the glue stick for all those great DeMatha teams. Man, I'm gonna go Eric Singletary.
Okay.
I'm gonna go Eric Singletary as my first pick because, like myself, or like some of the other guys, Eric has such a impression on the game. Like, he did so much within the game that his control of the game was so high. You know what I mean? And I will probably always go with a point guard first anyway. Then people say, what would you go? Would you go with the point guard first or big man? And I believe I'm going to always pick the point guard first.
Okay.
Because he got the ball in his hands the most, and I want to be able to trust him. I would absolutely trust Eric Singletary with any situation, on the basketball floor. What he did for Sidwell Friends, nobody really knew about Sidwell Friends until really Eric Singletary. I mean, he really put Sidwell on the map.
Well, Coach, we really appreciate it. It's great coming in here to Wise, catching up with you, learning a little bit more about yourself, growing up, your basketball philosophies, your life outside of basketball. If there's anything else, you feel compelled to talk about, the floor is yours, and then we'll call it a day.
Mark, a good friend of mine by the name of Brian Montgomery, Be Fit Performance. He's an awesome guy. Sat me down one day, and he said, he asked me a question. He said, Coach Garner, would you rather make an impression or an impact? And I thought about that, and I said, Coach, I would rather make an impact. And I just believe that what we're doing at Wise, in the ministry at Wise, is making an impact on the young men that's coming through our program and helping them to be future awesome husbands, awesome fathers, a camaraderie of brotherhood like no other, and the impact that we're making with the kids coming through Wise is like no other. I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Rob Garner, it's been a pleasure catching up with you. We appreciate the time, and we look forward to seeing what you guys do next season.
Thanks, Mark, for having me, man. God bless.